Hello, everybody. So for my presentation this week, I am doing loops within PHP, and I've got this handy dandy little PHP code writer here to kind of help explain what I'm going to be doing. So there are three types of loops that are typically within most coding, but are within PHP as well. Three main ones, I should say. It is the for loop, the for each loop, and the while. There's also the do while, which makes it so that it'll run the first instance of the while statement, and then as long as the condition is true, it'll continue to run that block of code. So for the first one, I've got the for each loop. So an example that I did is I created just a simple nav array right here. So the nav has home, reviews, status, and login. And when I run this for each, it takes this array here, or this list, and it's going to print out each individual list item right here. So we've got the function that was created for nav right here. So it calls the list, and then for each item in the list, it will echo item and then have a break HTML sequence right after that. So it should run each individual nav item within that list. So if I run the code and look down here, it shows that something happened for each of the individual loops within that array. So that's what it does. It mostly works best with arrays. With the for, it has a set number of a decided number of how many times you're going to be running this code. So to do this one, you're going to write for, and then it's similar to JavaScript where you're going to have to give it its own variables. So it's going to start at 1, so I equals 1, and then while I is less than or equal to 10, then it's going to run this, and each time it runs through this specific sequence, it will increase this one to until it reaches 10. So for example, when I run the code, I made it so that it prints out hello world and then takes the iteration number, which is the I here, and it prints out hello world number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10 right there. So it chose the specific number of amount. So if I wanted to change this to 20, that's the number of times it will run. While I is less than or equal to 20, then as you see here, it's going to loop through the individual code right there 20 different times. So that has to do more with set numbers of the products there. Now the last one is the while loop. And this has to do with while a specific condition is true or false, whatever you want to set it to, then it will continue to run this code. So what I have here is I put it so that x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 15. This is just for demonstration purposes. So I could do while x is less than or equal to y, then it's going to print x and then add x plus 1 and echo the product number. And I wanted to do products because you could easily create something like if you want to determine how many products show up on a page. You could do a div ID equals product, and then you can pass in the parameter of x and end that div. And then close the div here. And each individual part of the HTML that is created with the div will have an incremented ID of product of X. And it's not going to show it here because obviously it's HTML, but if I were to run it, it has all the products here, and it has the blank line because of the div right here and the break. So that's kind of one example that you could use for while loops. You could do, if I wanted it to display, as for purposes for this, if I wanted it to display 20 per page, it's going to create 20 different products right there, or 21 because I have it set as 0. But if I were to start this at 1, then for each individual, if I wanted 100 products shown on the page, it'll loop through and show all 100 products until it hits 100. So that's kind of the fun thing about loops, is it'll continue to do what you want. It can reuse the same code over and over and make your lives a lot easier. So that is a little bit about loops. Thanks for watching.